Alright, so welcome to my presentation on after-school AP test preparation and the impact that it has on student test scores. I want to welcome Dr. Biggerstaff through the video, and Ms. Hester, our principal, Mr. Waddell, our assistant principal, and my mentor in this whole program. So here we go. By way of introduction, I want to ask, how do we know what we as educators do really has an impact on students? Like, that's one of the major questions I think about a lot as a teacher. Like, how do we know what we do as educators really has an impact on students? And to put that in perspective, I've got a couple pictures. This is what we're working with. We're working with young Homo sapiens that, if left alone, would be sticking sharp things into light sockets. All right? And our task as educators is to take this and move it to that. A young, civilized, educated child who maybe could do some complicated equations and produce something that's good for our society. So that's what we're doing. So it's an important question. How do we know what we do as educators really has an impact on students? And that's kind of what this action research is about. So that's the great thing about action research and the data it collects, is you can kind of know, here's what I'm doing, and it does have an impact or it doesn't, and how much of an impact. So you're going to see that today in my project. But first, we're going to review a little of the related literature. These are scholarly journal articles that have some sort of relation to my project. And so the first one's by these three authors. They discuss the importance of scaffolding academic language to successfully prepare students in APUSH or AP US History classes. And what they found was, in order for students to be successful in the APUSH exam, they need to be able to construct effective written arguments that display the narrative continuity of the major themes of U.S. history, because that's a big part of how they're scored on the exam. And they found through their data that scaffolding does, in fact, help with that process. So as teachers scaffold different, writing skills throughout their course that go along with the major themes of U.S. history, that they will help exam scores. And then Rothschild discussed the impact that the document-based question has had on the teaching of APUSH. That's a big part. That's a big part of the exam score. And her findings was it's significant for any APUSH exam preparation session to have some time focused on helping students learn how to write a DBQ, which is part of what our class does. And so that's related to people taking the APUSH exam, the DBQ. All right, and then, however you say that, Venkateswaran studied race and gender issues that occur on the APUSH exam, focusing on three interrelated issues when it came to race and gender. And her findings were the College Board has been taking steps to ensure that the exam is fair to all candidates. However, her data reveals striking results about the performance of women and minorities, that male students consistently outperform female students on the multiple choice section of the exam if you look at data over time. And so that encourages the AP teacher to make sure they really try to include women and minority stories and historical evidence as they go through their curriculum. And then Lurie saw, as a longtime reader and scorer of the APUSH exam, there's a problem with teachers focusing too much on exam prep in class time and not enough on preparing APUSH students with college-level thinking skills. And their findings, the teachers who keep the overall goal of preparing students for college and career in mind throughout their teaching of APUSH do actually a better job of preparing students for the exam itself than those who just focus solely on the exam. So that encourages AP teachers to keep college and career readiness in mind. And then one more literature example. Heller and Stacy wrote that teaching historical thinking skills used to be a lonely endeavor for APUSH teachers because they used to be forced to come up with their own pedagogical techniques in relative isolation. But the course was significantly redesigned in 2014, and teachers through the College Board have many more resources available to them now to build reading, writing, and analysis into their APUSH curriculum. And so all these things are indirectly related to the literature or to the purpose of my Capstone project. And just a spoiler alert, this is what I'm going to be showing you I found. The data analyzed by my project revealed that after-school study sessions did, in fact, have a positive impact on AP test scores. And a big picture interpretation of that conclusion is that teachers do in fact make an impact on their students when they present content to them in engaging ways. And that's a similar conclusion to essentially all the articles that I researched in the related literature. Alright, so my research question. What effect do after-school study sessions have on the pass rate of AP US history students taking the AP test? I wanted to study this because I've taught, this is my 4th year of teaching AP. Every year I've been a little bit under the national pass rate, like my students have. So like the national pass rate's roughly 50% each year. My students have been down like around 40% of my students pass the test. And I've always wanted, since I started teaching this, to at least get past the national average pass rate. So they told us to choose something we were passionate about that would improve our instructional practice and what we do, and so this is what I chose. So what effect do after-school study sessions have on the pass rate of AP US history students taking the AP test? Here's my methods and procedures for my research. I offered the after-school study session to all my students with the incentive of bonus points. So if you come to the after-school session, you'll get so many bonus points. If you come to all of them, I'll let them have like an exemption from a quiz. So try to give them some incentives to come. Of course, some students either did not or could not participate. So the group of students who didn't participate in the after-school sessions was my control group. And those are, the students that are just coming to class and getting prepared through class. And my experimental group was the group of students that did come to after-school sessions. I decided to divide that up into 2 groups. The experimental group is divided up into 2. Would be students who came to all 4 sessions, so that's how many sessions I had, versus students who came to between 1 and 3 sessions. I wanted to see if it made a difference for them to come to all 4 of them because of the way we covered the, what they needed to study for the test. It was like different parts of the test in each session. So the ones who came to all 4 sessions knew what all they needed to cover, to study for the test. So participants were 72 students who took AP US History at South Warren in the 2015-16 school year and who took the AP test in May of 2016. And my data was collected through sign-in sheets at the after-school sessions and through College Board websites publishing AP test scores. That's basically all the data I needed for this. And I analyzed it by putting the students into 3 lists and comparing their test scores. So I needed 4 key sources of data for this action research. I needed a list of students who came to all the after-school study sessions, a list of students who came between 1 and 3 of the after-school study sessions, which I compiled from my sign-in sheets that they signed in when they were here. And then I needed a list of students who came to no after-school study sessions. So I took the remaining list and marked off the students that had come to anything, and that narrowed it down to all the students who took the test who didn't come to any after-school session. And then I also needed what each student scored on the AP test. And again, my research question, what effect do after-school study sessions have on the pass rate of AP US history students taking the AP test? And this data has been disaggregated into these 4 component parts, which you'll see on a table. I had to look up the word disaggregated, to be honest with you. And it means it's been split up into component parts. Okay. So I analyzed this data by taking each list of the students, the control list, and the 2 experimental lists, and writing down their test scores beside each of their names. I then calculated the average score of each group of students and the pass rate of each group of students. And I'm going to show you the results. But it was pretty easy to analyze this data. It's a pretty straightforward thing I'm researching. So the control group, which was the 35 students who did not come to any study sessions, had an average score on the test of 2.229 and a pass rate of 42.9%. It takes a 3 out of 5 to pass the AP US History exam. And then the first experimental group, which was the 25 students who attended between 1 and 3 study sessions, had an average score of 2.4 and a pass rate of 44%. And the second experimental group, the 12 students who came to all 4 study sessions, had an average score of 2.583 and a pass rate of 58.3%. So you can see it on a table here. The average score of the control group, again, students who came to no study sessions, and then students who came to between 1 and 3, and then students who came to all 4 study sessions, which was the big thing in my mind, like that we had such a higher pass rate. Now there was, granted, a smaller group of students here, but this, well, I'll show you. I got it on here, I think. Again, my research question. this data would indicate that after-school study sessions do have an effect on how students perform on the AP exam. That's my student learning impact. After-school study sessions have a positive impact on student learning, and then in turn college and career readiness, because this test is a big college and career readiness test. In comparison to published results, this is what I was going to show you. National AP US History pass rate in 2014, which is the latest one I could find online, was 52.5%. And so what I was happy about is my experimental group 2, who came to all 4 study sessions, beat that national average. So you can see it's a very difficult test. Only about half the students pass it. And I was very glad to see that this group beat that. That was kind of one of my goals, to see if that would happen. And it did. Now it needs to be, well, I got some next steps in here. Okay, so what would make this better is if it was studied with more students. Like you could say, all right, instead of just one teacher doing it, maybe 4 or 5 teachers, and then you have a sampling of like 300 students that take the test or whatever, and then you could make the data stronger. But some actions I'd like to take in the future related to this: continue to conduct after-school study sessions when preparing students for the AP exam. Share the results of this research with other AP teachers in the school building in order to encourage them to employ after-school study sessions to prepare students. I really do think it helped them. The data shows that, but just being with them, I felt like they had more confidence to take the test and do well on it. Collect data from colleagues' AP tests and do a similar analysis to the one that was done in this project. Again, that will make this project stronger if there's more data similar to what I've done. And then share the findings of this research with the administrators of the school, which I'm doing right now, and continue to use action research on an ongoing basis to improve instructional practices. I was impressed with how kind of easy this is to do, and yet it really makes a big impact on how you teach. They asked us to connect this to ISLIC and TSSA standards. So I connected them to a few of them that apply to this project. So ISLIC Standard 1 is about developing a vision of learning. And the new vision that I have from this is it seems to take more than instruction during school to help kids pass the AP exam. Those exams are very difficult. And ISLIC Standard 2 is about advocating for a school culture that's conducive to student learning. And I think this project made a positive impact on school culture because it showed the students that their AP teacher cared enough about them to kind of go above and beyond, to stay after school with them, say, I want you to do really well on this test, here's how you're going to attack it, and all that stuff. So I felt like that was good. And then ISLIC Standard 3 is about managing educational resources. And this project led students to use a website called Quizlet to help them prepare for the AP test. So we use educational resources. ISLIC Standard 4 says that an educational leader will help students succeed by collaboration with faculty members. And I collaborated with my fellow AP teachers, about strategies for helping students pass the AP test, what maybe I should do in the after-school sessions, that type of thing, during the research of this project. And Standard 5 is about acting with integrity, fairness, and ethical manner. This project was true to that because it gave all students an incentive to participate in the study sessions, and the results of the study respect student confidentiality. So on my paper I just put their initials, like I didn't put their names, in other words. Okay. And then the TSSA standard, wait a minute. Okay. These are technology standards for school administrators. I think that's what this stands for. And they say that educational leaders, the first 2, will inspire a shared vision for comprehensive integration of technology. Again, the students use Quizlet to study for this test, and that's a relatively new, helpful learning tool. It's available online. So they were using technology. And that Standard 3 says educational leaders will apply technology to enhance their professional practice, and I use a lot of online library resources such as EBSCOhost to find my scholarly journals and to do my research. So I felt like I used that standard. All right, here's my conclusion. I found this action research project to be very valuable for my educational practice. The process of action research is something that good teachers are always doing in informal ways. Like, does this work? How do I know? If it didn't work, what am I going to do different? If it did work, how can I keep doing it but do it better? That type of thing. But completing a formal action research project really kind of made me more aware of that, like what we always do to try to improve things. And so that gives you confidence to continue to do informal action research and continually improve. And I also found, like I said a second ago, it wasn't as difficult as I thought it was going to be. It was fairly simple, straightforward process. Collect the data, analyze it, see what it told you. And it just took a little time and effort invested to help a teacher or educational leader learn how to do their job more effectively through action research. Here's some ideas for future research projects. I could do this action research with other colleagues who teach AP courses in other content areas. That would be a good thing to do. Or do a similar research projects on students in U.S. history who take the end of course exam at the end of class and see if after-school study sessions will help improve their scores. And then I was thinking about my future as an administrator, how this could apply to that. And I think you could do something like this with the whole school. For example, you could choose a specific educational practice. You can make a control group of students that don't participate in whatever that educational practice is, and then an experimental group of students who, whether it's after-school study sessions or some sort of reading strategy or whatever, and see how much that educational practice would impact their test scores. Something that could be done pretty easily as an administrator. So there's my action research project, and again, I found that the answer was yes to my question. It does have a positive impact after school sessions on AP scores. And that's it. Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you. I hope it was okay.
Think still recording?
Yeah, I'll edit the last of it. Yeah.
Good job.
Thank you.
It's interesting.
Mhm.
I mean, I love that you found something that was truly meaningful.
Yeah, I tried to do that. I felt like it would be more fun,